By 1941, the unthinkable happened. The Royal Navy has been completely destroyed in the Mediterranean. The British forces are trapped and struggling in Africa. Italy now dominates the entire region, from the sands of the Sahara to the Horn of Africa. But how did the world change so drastically? We have to go back to 1936 to find out. And well, this is exactly what happened by then. Now let's start with the Italo-Ethiopian War. And unlike in our timeline, they're actually going to be competent in this front. Yes, actually be competent. And well, just because Italy, let's pretend is red. I'll use light red for its advances. And well, with the shock happening. Oh my god, I'm on the wrong layer. Oh, oops. Well, let's invade. And well, they quickly move in from the north. Within like 2 weeks, they are moving into the Battle of Addis Ababa, with it falling rapidly. At this point, the British and French are forced to take note, and they're worried that this could be a major geopolitical issue, and that their interests in the region are being threatened, and they realize Italy's a threat to be reckoned with. But for Italy to be able to be more competent in this video, we have to go to Libya. And in Libya, they find oil early. Yes, oil's found. I believe this would be 20 plus years early. And this is what the Italians needed, but they didn't have. Also, I should probably fix what's going on in the German situation, because yes, stuff has happened. Such as this. And well, Italy now chooses to have more competent generals. They pick them on merit, not on stupid stuff. And well, let's see the Spanish Civil War bust open. And yes, it's going to look different, but I don't care. And well, what's the importance of this, you may be asking? This is where Italy tests out its stuff. You may say, what stuff? Oh, their new generals, being more advanced, they send some over. Yes. They send generals over to help the nationalist plan. With the nationalists with this support, Spain, the French and British and Soviets try to keep the Germans from taking over dominance in Spain. But the unfortunate part is they're already too late to the party. Yes, they're too late. Too late to the party. You need to hurry up. The early bird gets the worm. And well, at this point, Madrid manages to fall into nationalist hands, and quickly the nationalists now rule Spain with a little bit of resistance left. And while this finishes out, the Sino-Japanese War has thus begun. And with this, the British take notes, because this could threaten their colonies. And they know it. The Japanese know it, because they plan to take over colonies. The Americans look at this. They see Japan struggling with oil. They try to do something to give them oil, I guess, like in our timeline. But instead, Japan moves its source to Italy. Well, with this, they've made a safe bet. With China then doing what it did in our timeline and unifying. With the Japanese making their advance. Also, no, not this one. And with this alliance in China that has just formed has shown Japan they're not unstoppable. But Japan doesn't heed that warning, and they quickly move into here in China. And then they start moving into China, with them seizing cities in this area. And at the same time, they launch a landing just south of the Shandong Peninsula to great success, as the front stalls out like this. Well, at this point, we see the rise of the German might, with them first going against Austria with the Anschluss. Then they go for the Sudetenland. Yes. And after they annex Austria, with them helping the Italians, being part of the Axis and all. And well, years earlier than our timeline, in 1937, the fall of Spain to the nationalists has occurred. Also, I forgot to include their colonies, with them officially deciding to align with Italy. But their importance has not become yet. Also, they also took over the colonies, just to let you know. With the Sudetenland crisis happening and Germany annexes the Sudetenland. And well, I'm just going to make up what the Sudetenland looks like. I'm not good with the borders of the Sudetenland. It would be a crisis if I tried to figure it out. But let's try and see. And well, with this, seeing the rise of this alliance, the British, the French, the Americans, they all take note. And well, it looks like, is this able to be defeated? The British are having emergency meetings to see what to do, with them worried about this. But they decide to just let the Axis go ahead and do its thing. And well, then they annex the rest of Czechoslovakia. The British and French have an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. They bring up the fact Italy is rapidly expanding, their military is rapidly intensifying, and throughout Ethiopia, huge advances rapidly. Libya, oil found. They point out Germany's expansion. They point out Spain quickly being overrun by nationalists. And they talk about Japan. And the Americans are there, and they all discuss what to do. And at the end of the day, America trying to argue for ignoring it and let it happen. The British also, France arguing they should act now. Eventually, France is outvoted, but not for long. What does that mean? And well, Italy annexes Albania. And well, it's 1939. You know what that means? Germany, it's your turn. Okay. Yeah, no, Germany's not talking to me. That'd be funny. The Nazis are mad. What a surprise. Nazis. Who even likes Nazis? Like, if you voted for the Nazis in Germany in the 1930s, all I have to say is, you're an idiot. Like, literally, a big idiot. But at least nobody might Wait, what if one of my viewers is a Nazi? Oh, that could be bad. But let's invade Poland. And France is like, I told you, Britain, we should have done something. And Britain was like, oops. With them declaring war. But what do? Nothing. They just exist. And you might think, oh, that's good. With Italy joining. Yes. Yes, Italy is. No, not... They advance very well compared to our timeline, but its mountains are hard to advance in, so still they're slowed down. And well, the Soviet invasion's about to happen, with the Italians starting their invasion of France. And they quickly seize these lands. With the Soviets doing Soviet stuff. And well, with the main battle being against the British. They don't do anything about the Soviet Union. And also, I think I'm supposed to fix Estonia, Latvia's, and Lithuania's borders, not sure. But yeah. And then the quick advance into Poland by both sides. With the Soviets coming in from the east, because the Polish avoided focusing on this front. But the Germans knew exactly what was up. With them going north. Yes, who wants to go north? Well, they didn't say you, they said me. Also, nobody likes this ideology. If you do, get a life. Also, you should be in jail. Also, you shouldn't be making up numbers. Okay, fine, that's Germans. But don't use that as official numbers. The Germans were evil. Evil, 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 I say. You might be like, what's the worst that could happen? Well, yeah. Nothing bad for the Axis with a competent Italy. Hey, wait a minute. Let's color in the colonies to show the colonial battle out to happen. With German forces going up north now, and I have the full Allies so far colored in. And well, with the fall of Norway, a new threat has emerged. The potential for Italy to advance further and take a lot of land. With the Germans knowing this, and they go through the Netherlands and Belgium. And let's go to Japan's front. Like that one? With them moving in deeper into this front. They're also got their eyes set on a few things. They have Thailand entering to help them in Southeast Asia. But you might want to wait a second because, well, Indonesia is a part of it now. Dutch East Indies, I think is what it's called. And also, stop hiding away, you. And you. And well, the fall of France has begun. But before we look at that, well, yeah. The Soviets annex them. Yes, Germany takes a little bit from Lithuania. Let's see. And then, well, yeah. With the Germans rapidly advancing through the Ardennes area. With them quickly moving into the north, capturing Paris, thus as the Italians move further, France falls. But, yeah. A free France rises up across France. Also, them safely secured, with them getting pushed back pretty fast by Free France to the north. But as this is happening, thus, they move into Egypt. But whilst Egypt was on the loom of falling, a big threat arose around the Italian Ethiopia, with the British attempting to kick them out. And while the chance of Spain enters is increasing exponentially. But this front is successful. And at this point, Free France manages to overthrow most of France. But at this point, Iraq overthrows its colonial government. Well, they enter the war. Why now? Because they do. With Italy on a major offensive in Egypt. With Italy being more competent and better generals and more generals. With more into Egypt. With them managing to cut off the Suez Canal. Not Suez, the Nile River. And then they move to the north. With Cairo on the verge of collapse and the French here on the verge of collapse. Well, let's look at how the borders change after these three. And then, well, we need to look at the Winter's War between the Soviets and Poland, with Finland getting basically nothing at all, and still managing to pull off a pretty good defeat. With eventually, by the end of the war, they both decide it's time to negotiate for peace. So, well, let's see the eastern borders change. Suez Canal coming. Well, on two fronts, British and Free French forces are being kicked out. Well, they move across quickly, getting to the Mediterranean Sea as Iraq. As Iraq manages to start destroying stuff. And at this point, Alexandria is officially fallen, and they move into Cairo, with Cairo collapsing, and they move north. But something unexpected happens. Well, let's go to Japan. as they advance a bit more, and at this point they become bad and they invade Vietnam. And then quickly overrunning French Indochina. Well, they're growing very fast. And well, yes, you can see the full front, right? The British are planning an operation to take down Italian East Africa, with them moving into more areas. With the Italians making Italian East Africa a sacrifice, which the British don't know. But at this point, the Italians invade Greece. And they also succeed this time, because they're actually competent. And that's how we get into this scenario. And Greece is like, yeah, what's going to happen? But this being where Bulgaria officially joins the war. Yes, they join the war now. With the division of the Balkans beginning. With a coup in Yugoslavia, but that's not a big deal right now. As the fall of Greece becomes rapid, Italy shows off its navy. The fall of Cyprus happens too, even though that's part of Britain. But anyways. As the road towards domination beginning. With the British falling out of the eastern Mediterranean Sea. But Spain hasn't shown up yet badly. With a few nations going to join in now, because the fall of Yugoslavia has begun. And well, before we finish this, let's look at the map. So you can see Finland is getting ready for something. And well, in Iraq, in Iran and Saudi Arabia, Rome has its eyes on it. The sweeping deserts of the Arabian Peninsula and the mountainous, oil-rich Persia. They have their eyes on both. The British historically invaded Iran. Also, why is that important? You'll find out in part 2. Let's continue part 1 for now. And let's go back to Yugoslavia. Also, Saudi Arabia will be important, but we'll discuss that in a few days. And well, for now, let's invade Yugoslavia. With the Italians quickly taking over the coast, with the Bulgarians and the Italians taking out Macedonia. And while Romania, instead of gaining stuff, they're not going to like this. Let's see what happened in the Balkan negotiations. War this means. Thus, the Mediterranean Sea is completely controlled as they marched into Gibraltar in their entrance. And then they managed to take over Morocco. And then some more. And then, without missing a beat, they march into Portugal. You might say, how is this missing a beat? It's not really. And then they move in. As Spain moves a bit to the south. And like this. With Italy managing to launch a surprise maneuver. With their skilled generals in this war managing to push the Brits back. And well, they cross into Sudan. With this destroying the British's plan for domination over it. As they move along the Nile. And well, the British try to launch a counter-offensive. It's a failure. And they're falling into Italian hands. With the isolated forces in the Mediterranean being completely isolated from the Mediterranean. As they're now, these forces have to retreat to their holdings in the southern Arabian desert. And well, at this point, we need to talk about Japan. With Japan launching an attack from the south into China. Didn't say it was successful, because it's not. Well, they also land here. Approximately. Well, Italy plotted something very big. They invade Turkey. With Bulgarian and Italian forces being behind this, as the Romanians, Hungarians, and Germans don't really do anything here. With the Italians landing and with the Bulgarians, they move into Istanbul. They quickly seize the coast, and at this point they move into Ankara, rapidly pushing Turkey out of the war. With them heading towards the borders they'll have by the end of this video. Well, yeah, they're pretty close to it. And on this front, they're about to reach it. With Sudan about to fall, the British forces in Africa and Free French forces are in trouble, as they get kicked out of Ethiopia completely. And well, thus, we move on to more. Well, we're getting close to 1940, with Thailand joining the war. Well, the Japanese do stuff. As they move deep into Burma, they move into northern Papua New Guinea. And then, in this front, they dominate. They dominate this front. With Indonesia falling, that colony. Well, of course, up here, they're starting to move towards their full extent. And well, yes, we entered a new period of time. No, we're not there yet. I just realized. I need to move some borders a bit more. Not saying it really matters, but it does. Well, on this front, it does at least. Well, with Italian forces rapidly advancing and a few things are signed with land, well, behold where we're heading to. As we get to 1941, Japan is getting ready for Pearl Harbor. The Soviets are getting ready to do Soviet stuff. What will happen, you might be wondering? Well, who knows? And with Italy's rise and dominance over the Mediterranean, will the Axis crush the Soviets and force remaining allies to the negotiating table? Stay tuned for part 2, 1941 to 1945. And click on the link to the video.